Hello everyone, it's Ashwin Rao. Today's video features a makeup from an emerging shoemaker heralding from the Indian subcontinent. India has become increasingly well known for offering high quality yet affordable classic menswear segment, and Blackbird Shoemaker, as you can see right here, is no exception. I first became aware of Blackbird on the YouTube channel for Wisconsin Shoe Guy, who obtained a number of different makeups. The one that struck me most uniquely was this model that he had in brown. I decided to get this in a black leather from Conceria Zonta. Most hole cuts, and this is obviously a hole cut shoe, a hole cut Oxford, offer models with a seam in the back, but Blackbird, which offers their shoes at a very competitive price, offered a seamless hole cut. Now, in my experience, seamless hole cuts, and we'll show you what that is here, you can see essentially the entire upper is fashioned from one piece of leather. In the case of a seamless hole cut, there are absolutely no seams. Now, most hole cuts have a back seam right here. Seamless hole cuts require a unique positioning of a piece of leather upon the last to create upper with essentially no seams at all. And you can see that Blackbird truly does offer this in a hand-welted, hand-lasted, hand-stitched shoe. Now, they've done this rather remarkably at a very affordable price point. I do not have a traditional hole cut, let alone a seamless hole cut. I do have one hole cut from Paolo Scafora that has a Norwegian 360-degree welt and the traditional back heel seam. But I've always wanted a black seamless hole cut, essentially the cleanest design. Here I am seeing that Blackbird Shoemaker is offering exactly what I'm wanting at a price that's approachable for me to just try out. And so I reached out to Pradeep and Sandeep, who appear to be the primary faces of Blackbird Shoemaker. They're the individuals with whom you would engage on Instagram via direct messaging. This model, which features a upper leather from Conceria Zonta, they recommended that just because it's a higher quality leather than some of the more local offerings that they are able to price a little bit lower. I specifically wanted this particular style, which you can see has no seam on the back heel. And I actually asked for a couple of modifications. One of the things that I really like in shoes is this really neat offset between the heel block and the waist. And I was curious if they could do that, which they were able to. I also wanted to switch things up from a more traditional block heel to a pitched heel, which you can also see they have accomplished quite nicely here. So Blackbird positions themselves as a vendor for primarily the Indian shoe market, but because they have engaged the shoe community via Instagram, so they've reached a larger audience at a price point that was really designed for the upper end of the Indian market, but is quite affordable for the rest of the world. These are hand-welted, hand-lasted shoes with hand-stitched outsoles. Now, the outsole stitching does not have the highest stitch density. It's about 5 to 6 stitches per inch, but it's done all by hand. You can see that they have a slightly more rugged shape to their lasts, which I really like. There's a slight definition to the edge of the toe box here, which I really like. I'm not sure if the light is fully going to catch that, but I really enjoy the shape of this last because it has a slightly more rugged look to it. A shoe that's hand-lasted, hand-stitched, with no seam on the back heel for in the neighborhood of $300 was something that I had to jump at. Now, typically, seamless hole cuts are reserved for bespoke shoemaking or very high-end made-to-measure or made-to-order shoes, not necessarily at this price point. And traditionally, they don't have this offset heel block or tapered waist. It's more of a squared-off waist with a traditional block heel, but they were certainly able to accomplish a really nice, slightly beveled waist with an offset heel that you can see right in here. There you go, I'm giving you a close-up view of that. They also offer a slight taper to the waist, and you can see how cleanly that heel block fits when when observing it adjacent to the upper here. So here we are with a very high-end looking shoe that is at a very aggressive price point, offering a style that's rarely seen outside of bespoke shoemaking. So obviously very attractive to me. It took them about 4 to 5 months to get this to me. Initially, the estimates were closer to 7 or 8 weeks, but you know, I don't fault them. This is a difficult style to manufacture, and they actually had a pair ready for me, but there were some issues with how the leather was cut and clicked, and that was causing some unusual strain patterns on the upper, and so they didn't want to send that to me. They remade the shoes, and that took a little longer, and I am totally fine with that. We were in regular communication, and they were very apologetic and very communicative during the process, so I was very appreciative of that as well. Didn't feel like I was left hanging. Things I don't know about the shoe is whether they use a leather or synthetic heel stiffener and toe stiffener, so I'm not sure about that. I don't know if the heel block is made from leather heel stack or not. Now, as I mentioned, you do make some concessions from something that's a much higher end shoe. Lower stitch density at that 5 to 6 stitch per inch level of density, but that's totally fine for the price. This is not a true blind waist. On either side, you can see the stitching through the waist, and that is entirely reasonable as well. But really, other than that, the only things I notice here are, if you peer into the lasting, you can see some ridges along the bottom of the heel block where they pulled the leather in to create that seamless heel. It's not perfect by any means, and certainly at a higher price point, I would have been, I would have noticed that more. But at this price point, for what I paid, I can honestly say this is not something that would bother me at this price point. Came with shoe trees as well, which was a nice touch. These are Blackbird's shoe trees. They seem to have the traditional hinge. Nothing special. They actually don't have any branding on them. They're kind of fairly basic, but they do the job. I believe they are lasted. You can see the Blackbird Shoemaker logo here in this cushioned heel, this cushioned footbed here, which I prefer would have more leather exposed. There's a foam-like material in this insole layer here that is likely to break down over time. So they do offer international leathers. I mentioned this was a Conceria Zonta black calf, and I'm really curious how this leather will break in over time. Some of the shoes I've seen online have some pretty dramatic creasing, but those use the more locally sourced Indian leathers, which are of lower quality, maybe a little thinner. The Zonta leather is supposed to be high quality, so I'm really looking forward to seeing what it brings. So here we are, Blackbird Shoemaker. The box is a nice box. You can see it there. Pretty typical blocks. It also comes with this really nice, what feels like a bone type shoehorn with a little leather pull tab here. Really impressed with this shoe tree with the Blackbird Shoemaker logo emblazoned that you can see there. The shoe bags are nice, traditional cloth material, and have little pull strings on them. I usually leave these separate. And then the box itself is pretty nice, has this texture with a Blackbird Shoemaker and all the information, including a notation for Mr. Osh, I guess that's me. They're size 43, which equates to a UK 9, US 10, Brannock 10D. And this is the name of their model, the Constance X in black calf, Seamless Wholecut. So there we go. I hope you're doing well. I'll look forward to catching up with you as I take this journey with this pair. I'll report back as to how it's aging, because honestly, this could be one of the most well-priced, affordable seamless whole cuts ever made. And that's saying a lot. Hope you're doing well. Have a good one. Goodbye.